5 junior from Grinesland, North Carolina, number 3, Keith Gatlin. For North Carolina at guard, a 6'2 freshman from Carlisle, Pennsylvania, number 14, Jeff Lebo. For Maryland at guard, a 6'1 senior from Washington, D.C., number 12, Jeff Baxter. For North Carolina at guard, a 6'3 junior from Queens, New York, number 30, Kenny Smith. For Maryland at center, a 6'8 junior from Glen Allen, Virginia, number 32, Terry Long. For North Carolina at center, a 6'11 and 3/4 senior from Black Mountain, North Carolina, number 42, Brad Doherty. Forward, a 6'7 sophomore from Temple Hills, Maryland, number 33, Derek Lewis. North Carolina forward, a 6'10 junior from Kohler, Wisconsin, number 24, Joe Wolf. For Maryland at forward, a 6'8 senior from Landover, Maryland, number 34, Lynn Bias. Forward, a 6'4 senior from Jenks, Oklahoma, number 25, Steve Hale. Head coach for the University of Maryland, Charles Lefty Brazell. And head coach for the University of North Carolina, Dean Smith.
They're the officials for tonight's game. Joe Forte in the middle, flanked by Jerry Donahue and Rusty Herring. Just about a minute from now, you may see one of the most intense ball games, certainly that you've seen today, because these teams have gone at each other unlike no other in the 2 games this year. They split, Maryland winning at Chapel Hill, North Carolina winning at Cole Fieldhouse. What do you expect of it?
Well, no lead is sacred. We saw that in Cole Fieldhouse. Maryland was out, had a 9-point lead, looked like they had control of the ball game. Carolina comes back and beats them. Same thing Carolina at Chapel Hill. Carolina has the big lead, 3 minutes to play, 9 points. Here comes Maryland fighting back to win that basketball game.
What do you think Maryland has to do, and what do you think North Carolina has to do to win tonight?
Well, I think to start this basketball game, Maryland needs their guards to be aggressive offensively, to open things up for Bias. We're going to see the Carolina Ball Club. They're going to be looking to go inside as much as possible to put that pressure inside against Derek Lewis. And he's going to have his hands full tonight against Brad Doherty.
Doherty and Bias, 2 consensus All-Americans set to jump in the center circle. And Maryland will control the opening tip. This is Gatlin, picked up by Kenny Smith.
There you see Carolina's coming out straight man-to-man.
Len Bias misses his first, but Lewis with the rebound, and he traveled. Ran into his own man after getting the offensive rebound. And just by way of noting it, Lenny Bias needs 7 points to become the all-time leading Maryland scorer.
Well, with what we saw starting off the ball game with Steve Hale playing against Bias, it'll be interesting if he looks to go inside to post up Bias where he has a big size advantage.
Doherty a long, long way away from the basket, looking for Hale going back door. Remember, Hale is coming off a partially collapsed lung. He gets the ball low to Doherty, who's had great success against Maryland, and gets the first 2.
Doherty has a great advantage inside against Long, who's only about 6'7", and he's about 7 feet tall. So anytime he can get the ball in the box, Long is in serious trouble.
Lewis gets it low, stripped, but the ball's out of bounds to Maryland. Carolina always with those quick hands on defense.
What that was is excellent rotation from the weak side to give that help.
Baxter against the double team to Bias. Gatlin, the 3-man. And he misses his first crack. Maryland looks a little tight when they shoot so far. Joe Wolf, nice pass to Doherty, but he missed the shot, and then Wolf knocked it out of bounds. Well, Doherty is going to miss many of those.
Oh, you just cannot allow him to get the ball that deep on the court. Another thing that'll be interesting, if he does get it deep out of the set offense, is Maryland going to look to go double team against him and force him to swing the ball to the perimeter.
Doherty leads the nation in field goal percentage, incidentally, 64.9%. So the last miss was very rare indeed. 2-0 North Carolina, 18:40 to go. Baxter And Maryland ice cold. Bias with a follow, won't go. Long keeps it alive and saved it. Good hustle by Terry Long.
Well, there's the quickness of Maryland on the boards.
And Gatlin breaks the drought, ties it at 2, and Terry Long goes down to the floor.
Well, that's one advantage inside that Maryland has against Carolina. They have great quickness. Quick jumpers. Carolina does not have that. And we've seen right away Maryland getting to the offensive boards and getting their first 2 points of this ball game off the offensive boards.
Massenberg is quickly up for Maryland, the freshman center. He will come in for Terry Long, who may have had a cramp the way he went down and the way he's walking now.
Well, let's take a look and see actually what happened. There's the shot by Baxter. You see Long coming across in the middle, number 32.
Now we're back to live action. It's 2-2. This is Wolf. Excellent shooter, Joe Wolf, the junior out of Kohler, Wisconsin, averages 10 points a game. He puts Carolina out by a bucket.
Well, anytime you play Carolina, you must maintain your concentration defensively for the full. If it takes 45 seconds because they use that passing game and they move the ball so well.
Lewis tries to get it inside, threw it away instead. 2-on-2 break, Smith and Hale. Kenny Smith with his first 2.
Well, I'm sure Carolina is very pleased to see that from Kenny Smith because the last few games he has started out and been very tentative as a basketball player.
Gatlin goes low to Lewis, double team, goaltending Doherty. Got there late.
Let's take a look. Good weak side help by Doherty. Yeah, looked like it was on his downward flight.
Of course, Dean didn't think so.
Well, you're sitting on the bench. You never think anything's wrong with either side. Lefty won't think it, or Dean Smith, especially in a game like this.
17:33 to go, first half. Carolina leads 6-4 over Maryland. Kenny Smith against the trap. Great job to get right through it, and Wolf was wide open. He threw up an air ball from 5 feet. Joe Wolf must have wondered what happened to that one.
He was probably surprised by the pass. At least I'm giving him an excuse for missing the shot.
Bias wants the ball. Hale went for the steal, didn't get it. Gatlin and Baxter have shot very well for Maryland in the last month of the season, and Baxter ties it at 6. Hale gives it to Wolf. Doherty wants it inside. Massenberg trying to front him. And we got pushing on Doherty inside, or a 3-second violation.
3 seconds. Good call by the official. Doherty came from the weak side, but never got out of the lane area. Steve Hale looks like he's fine out there. It'd be interesting. We'll give another minute or 2 and see how he responds. There, that Carolina come with that double team.
There's Baxter again. Hit the last one from there. Baxter left alone has proven that he can bury that jump shot.
Well, the reason that the 2 points was Keith Gatlin reading the double team and finding Baxter open on the baseline.
Gatlin already Maryland's all-time assist leader as a junior. He's passed Lucas, and Wolf throws it out of bounds. Somebody zigged when he thought they should zag. Maryland has its first lead and the basketball, and Lefty Drizel gets Tom Jones up off the Maryland bench in a hurry.
And Speedy's been playing great basketball for the Maryland Terps. It just seemed like he came out of his shell offensively in that game where Lefty had to suspend the 3 Maryland players, and he went out there trying to carry them offensively.
Sure did. And they'll take Derek Lewis out of the ballgame. Maryland, after missing its first 4 shots, has hit its last 4 to take an 8-6 lead.
A big factor is their guards have not gone into a shell, which they did earlier in the year, saying, oh, I missed the first shot or 2, and I better just look to pass the ball to Bias. They've maintained that aggressiveness.
Bias gets it low against Hale, and they double team whenever they can. Gatlin is the open man. Rims it, and they're going to call Massenberg for pushing off underneath. That'll be number 1 on the freshman from Sussex, Virginia.
That was still excellent ball movement by the Terps, and they had the good shot, just didn't go down.
And really, that's all a coach can ask for, right?
That's right.
You move it to the open man.
They made that extra pass at the offensive end of the court. Especially have to do that against Carolina because they'll look to double team, they'll look to trap so much, so he never hurt by making the extra pass.
Hobson is into the ball game, and a great pass to Doherty. Bias blocked the shot, and they'll call Bias for the foul.
There's the back screen. That's the reason by Lebo right there. Poor communication defensively by the Maryland Terps, and Bias coming from the weak side and picks up the foul.
Terry Long, who looked out earlier, is coming back in. Massenberg is out. Excuse me, Bill.
Well, that play by Lebo, that's something that doesn't show up in the stat sheet after the game, but he was the one that came up and set that good back screen to allow that lob pass.
He's not sound as a freshman or anything, is he?
Well, Dean Smith has said that he's the soundest freshman that he's ever had at Carolina.
And that includes quite a few guys.
Quite a few. You know, you just look down the list over the last several years, the players that have gone on into the pro ranks from Carolina, and it's several special players.
Doherty, who is 10th ranked in the ACC in free throw shooting, hit only one, and with 15:49 to go, we have a 1-point ball game.
You see why the Terps were able to turn around their season. At one point, they were 0-6 in the conference, and they ended up 6-8.
I think the real difference there is Gatlin and Baxter, because the way they have shot from the outside has opened it up inside, not only for Tom Jones, but for Lenny Bias.
They seemed to just look to Bias earlier in the year, and they just expected him to carry them. And I think their players were just a little in awe of the great abilities of him.
Here's full court pressure. Baxter trying to beat it. They throw it away. Knocked out of bounds out to Carolina. That's excellent defense, Billy.
Excellent defense. I'm sure Lefty made his team aware that they were going to come out and trap, because we know the Carolina team loves to trap after foul shots or timeouts.
Third time Maryland has thrown it away in the first 4 minutes, and they can't continue at that rate. That's when you play Carolina. Turnovers are usually caused by their defense.
That's why they shoot such a high percentage from the field. They create those turnovers and are able to get the easy layups at the other end of the court.
Hale got Jones up in the air, then missed the shot, kept alive, whistle, and we'll have a foul against North Carolina underneath.
Here's the last play, and we see the defensive pressure. Looking to double team Levo and Hale. Should not be dribbling the ball that way, Baxter. He should have been looking, and someone should have come to the middle of the court to allow him to make that entry pass to free him up against that pressure. Yeah. Steve Hale looked very tentative on that shot. And I'm sure, you know, being out of action, you know, you need to get banged one time to just have that confidence that nothing's going to happen, that you will be able to perform the way you were before the injury.
Last foul was on Doherty, his first, the team's second. It's a 1-point Maryland lead.
It's interesting watching these two teams so far. Carolina looking to go inside, and the Maryland team shooting from the perimeter.
Tom Jones shows you that shooting touch. He has his field goal average up near 55% this year. Maryland by 3. Wolf is back in the Carolina lineup, and Hobson is out.
You know, when you're struggling like the Carolina team is, you need somebody to get you going.
Hale forced it up. Wolf missed 2 follows. Here's Hale. Hale again. And Carolina just killing Maryland on the boards right now.
Well, there's no excuse for a Derek Lewis who has position on the defensive boards against a Steve Hale, and he's several inches taller, and he never left his feet. Steve just out-hustled him on the boards.
Lebo to Smith. Lebo had a big game, one game against Maryland. Here's Doherty's jumper. It won't go. Carolina has hit a cold streak, and Maryland has built a 3-point lead and now has the ball. Boy, that hurts to get those offensive opportunities time after time and not get any points out of it.
You can't imagine. It hurts the players, but the coaches are the ones that really suffer through those type of situations.
Terry Long. This is Gatlin, started by Smith. Low to Jones. Rushed the shot, tipped out of bounds. It's out to North Carolina. And Wolf went down, and he's holding his left knee.
Terry Long came right down on the back of his leg, and it looks like his ankle, and he's in serious pain over there. Let's take a look and see what happened. Good patience by the Maryland ball club trying to capitalize on that mismatch down low with Steve Hale. Now he gets kicked, and there's Terry Long coming down on the back of his foot.
I think initially he twisted his ankle, stepped on somebody's shoe, and then he got hit on the back of the leg.
Let's take one more look at it. They're going up for the shot.
Yeah, he slipped.
Let's just hope he just twisted his ankle and it's nothing any more serious than that.
Teammates helping him off the court, and he is holding that left leg very gingerly. So keep a note of this. Joe Wolf goes out at 13:39 in the first half with his team down by 3. And the North Carolina training staff will get to work on that leg.
It's interesting, the Carolina team that had this great depth, injuries and just taking that depth right away from them.
Popson comes into the ball game. Bias gets an ankle on it, knocks it out of bounds. So Popson is in. Wolf, who'd average 10 points a game, replaced by Popson, who averages 4.
Well, as a coach, you know, earlier in the year, people were saying, who's going to win the tournament, the conference, get to the NCAAs? Well, the number one thing you have to be is a healthy ball club.
North Carolina had missed 7 shots in a row. Popson breaks the drought, and it's 10-9. Maryland now by 1.
Well, besides that, Popson's got his hands full playing Bias.
Gatlin to Bias on the jam alley-oop, and they've got a foul besides. Oh, is that pretty or what?
Just great communications between Keith Gatlin and Bias. Now we'll see that pass, and there was great pressure on the ball by Kenny Smith that even makes it even more amazing play.
Foul was on Popson, his first. Len Bias now needs only 5 points. Now make it 4 points to become the all-time scorer in Maryland history, surpassing Albert King. And that 3-point play gives Maryland a 4-point lead. This is Madden into the ballgame for the first time. Lebo forced one up and just hit nothing but glass with it.
Well, when your team is struggling like Carolina is, you saw there where Lebo had the good open jump shot and took that dribble into a crowd and had to force a shot up.
Baxter calls out the play. 12 minutes, 38 seconds to go, first half. In the first game at College Park, they isolated Baxter on Lebo, and Baxter really did a job on him. Second game, they tried to do it, it didn't work. Speedy Jones with a miss, and Lewis is going to be called for pushing off. He had his hands right in the middle of somebody's back.
Let's take a look at that play. You see Popson's looking to overplay and deny the basketball to Bias. It's just a great athlete and just a great pass by Keith Gatlin.
Lefty Brazell, who is 1-3 against Dean Smith in the ACC tournament. Maryland overall 2-4 against North Carolina in this classic. 4-point lead. Madden, the freshman from Stanton, Virginia, to Kenny Smith. And the Tar Heels are ice cold. Doherty gets another offensive rebound, however.
I think the key for Carolina, if they're going to get themselves going again, they're going to have to create some things at the defensive end of the court to beat this Maryland ball club.
Doherty can't hit from inside. I don't think I can ever remember North Carolina missing this many 2- or 3-foot shots, Billy.
You know, confidence is such a delicate thing in this game, and when you have it, you believe the basket becomes bigger. You have more confidence in your teammates as well as yourself, and you're seeing a Carolina team that is a little tentative out there.
Doherty and Kenny Smith knocked it out of bounds, so it will be Maryland's ball when we come back. 11:40 to go in the first half. Maryland 13, North Carolina 9.
What do you want to be when you grow up?
A baseball player. A movie star.
At Pilot Life, we know how important dreams are.
And
Up that shoe, he left at the 13:39 mark after he went down hard on the floor, holding both his knee and his ankle. And there's Warren Martin, who will get in the ballgame for the first time.
You know, for the first 13, 14 weeks of this season, the thing that Carolina had the ability to do is wear teams down on the inside. Now with the injuries to Wolf and to Martin, they're a very vulnerable team, especially if Brad Doherty ever gets in foul trouble. Now look at the field goal percentages right there. Carolina, you know, leading the country in the field goal percentage,
That's
and
right.
4 for 14. That tells you something about the type of defense that this Maryland ball club is playing, but also that this Carolina team is rushing their shots when they do have the good opportunities.
And Bias couldn't get that pass through 2 players, and North Carolina comes back. Warren Martin coming off a bad foot, had the casters taken off of it, and that was Doherty who cuts the lead down to 2 points, and Brad Doherty with 5.
Well, right here we see Carolina's coming out and trying to pick up the tempo defensively and become more aggressive.
Gatlin short-armed that jumper, and they get it to Kenny Smith, 2-on-2. Hale down the lane. Blocking, called on Baxter.
Steve Hale looked like he was holding his breath. I'm sure Dean Smith, if we only had a picture of him right here as Steve Hale is hitting the floor, He had to hold his breath in that case, but right here we see the Carolina team that's come out with the intensity defensively and have been able to create a couple things at the offensive end of the court.
In the semifinals of the Big East, Syracuse has knocked off Georgetown in overtime. What a difference a year and the absence of Patrick Ewing can make from great to good. Joe Wolf, and they've got an ice bag on that ankle now as Hale hits the
One problem, when you twist an ankle and you sit there as long as Joe Wolf is sitting and you try to come back in, your ankle is so stiff it's almost impossible to get back in there and play. So usually when you twist it, you try to get the guy right back in.
Gatlin against pressure gets it to Jones. At the conclusion of our game, we'll be choosing a player from each team as the Holly Farms players of the game. Here is Bias against Madden, and Bias too strong. Jones kept it alive, but they'll get Jones for the foul. Came over the back.
Well, Len Bias would like to have that shot every time he getting the ball in that low post, and I just love to watch him going up and shooting the basketball because his technique is just so beautiful. He squares his body to the basket, and he just has excellent concentration on that rim.
Freshman John Johnson from Knoxville, Tennessee is into the ball game for the first time. Gatlin gets a breather. It's tied at 13. We almost had a souvenir. And Carolina turns it over again.
That was a poor pass by Jeff Lebo.
Has not gotten untracked offensively. Hit 1 of 5 so far.
Do you think he might be thinking about that record?
Could be. And he stepped on a baseline.
Well, that's where North Carolina will force you. Anytime they get a chance, if you're on that sideline, they love to force you to the baseline.
Doherty got about a 15-second breather, comes back in the ballgame. You know how those records are. You know, these kids are human beings, 21, 22-year-old people.
I would know nothing about it.
Madden driving the baseline gets cut off. And Steve Hale.
You know, I think the play for Steve Hale was going to the basket, hitting the floor and getting up and realizing he was still in one piece. And that's got to give him a lot of confidence as a player.
Baxter guarded by Lebo.
This defense by
some tough passes.
What's happening is the defensive pressure by Carolina is forcing him a few feet further out in the court and making it tougher offensively.
Tom Jones, first miss of the night. Madden ahead of the pack. Johnson back. Great pass and a great block by Lewis. Here comes Bias.
He came out of nowhere to block that shot.
Lewis is a premier shot blocker. That's 64 on the season. Bias wanted the ball, has it against the double team. Missed again, 1 out of 6 for the All-American.
And another thing we're seeing the Maryland team not going to the offensive boards. They had no one on the offensive boards when that shot was attempted.
Lebo with a nice move down the lane, draws the foul.
It's amazing watching a team. When the game started, we saw the Maryland club aggressive defensively. Carolina shooting 4 for 14, starting the ball game, and they were very effective at the offensive end of the court. As soon as Carolina got their defense going and they were aggressive, everything changed. And here's this block by Derek Lewis coming out, and I'm sure they thought that he had that 2 points.
Lebo at the line hits the first, 72.9% free throw shooter.
You know, this game is a very simple game, basketball. And everything starts from the defensive end of the court. And you must have the intensity. Either if you're playing in a zone defense, you have to be active and aggressive. In a man-to-man, you have to do the same thing. Is to have any results. And those things carry right over to the offensive end of the court for a ball club.
Well, it may be a simple game. The problem is it's coached and played by complex human beings.
I don't know why anyone would want to coach.
It's easy for you to say now.
I know, it sure is.
Carolina really hustling on defense. Bias double teamed anytime he touches it. Johnson with his first shot. Comes up short. Doherty with a rebound.
Doherty has the rebound, but he has no pressure when he's going up for that defensive board.
North Carolina has taken a 17-13 lead, and the pass off the hands of Thompson from Hunter, who checks into the ballgame for the first time.
That was a great idea by Hunter, even being able to see his teammate down low, but Pops had never expected the pass.
Lefty wants a timeout to talk about it. 8:39 to go. North Carolina by 4. We'll be back after this from Natural Light. Maryland had dominated the early going, Billy.
Few things are happening. Maryland has not scored a field goal in about 4.5 minutes now. Their guards have not been actively involved in the offensive end of the court. Also, Derek Lewis has not touched the basketball at the offensive end of the court in a scoring area. What does that mean? That means Brad Doherty can just float around there, looking to get to the defensive end of the court, defensive boards, and also it allows him to have extra energy at the offensive end.
Get it down to Jones to beat the pressure. Stay tuned at halftime. We'll announce one of the finalists in the Pepsi Super Fan Contest. Maryland has missed its last 8. They try to get it into Bias, and he's fouled.
Well, they're just looking, swinging the basketball. What they've done is they have a shell surrounding Bias, and they're swinging the ball from side to side to get the ball inside to him.
That'll be on Popson, his second, the third team foul against North Carolina. Maryland has committed 6. That pass was tipped and last touched by Tom Jones.
Now this trap is starting to bother the Maryland ball club.
And you wonder why, Billy, because it hadn't in the first 2 games. They had handled it really well.
They had one short stretch in the first half in Chapel Hill where it hurt them for a minute or 2. Other than that, they attacked it, got the good shots, and hurt Carolina against the trap.
Lebo around the screen, got Johnson in the air, but he missed the shot.
If you noticed, he paused and hesitated in the middle of his shot. It was not a fluid jump shot.
And that one is going to be against Brad Doherty, who's pushing off. No, it's not against Doherty. He was complaining that it wasn't against him, and he was right. It was on Curtis Hunter.
You know, if you're as good a shooter as a Jeff Lebo, when you go up for the shot, there shouldn't be anything on your mind but that basket. And it just looks like he's thinking a little too much out there on the court. And any basketball player that thinks is in serious trouble. It's a game of reactions and instincts.
Bias has not had his shooting eye so far tonight. 1 out of 6. Johnson goes to the baseline. And Lewis got his hand in the basket, and it's overruled.
Boy, that was a great move by Johnson, getting to the baseline, the penetration, but he just missed the easy shot. He was right there. We see Derek Lewis, no one checking him off the boards. If that ball came out an inch more, he would have had himself an easy 2 points.
7:29 to go. Hale comes back into the ball game for North Carolina. So Dean Smith has got Hale, Kenny Smith, Warren Martin, Brad Doherty, and Lebo. Lefty Grizzell has Baxter back in the ball game along with Gatlin, Lewis, Bias, and Speedy Jones. And we've got another whistle. And an offensive foul away from the ball. Steve Hale with a blocking.
Most cases for young people, when someone sets a screen for you, you must wait for the screen. That was a case where Steve Hale was setting a screen. If you notice this, looking to set the screen. That didn't look like any foul to me at all.
Didn't see much of anything there.
Matter of fact, he didn't set a good screen.
Baxter out of the corner, got it. Maryland breaks the drought, and it's been a game of drought. 17-15, Baxter with 6.
It has not been a fluid game for either team to this point.
And Gatlin goes for the steal, and they're going to call him for reaching in. That'll be number 1 on Gatlin. And the 7th team foul against Maryland here in the first half. North Carolina's committed 5. They'll call the foul, on Baxter and not Keith Gatlin, I'm told.
Kenny Smith is a player, games I've been able to see him play, when it gets to crunch time, end of ball games, most cases he's a very aggressive player. You know, he's willing to fail. He's willing to take that big shot. But it seems like there's stages of a game, he just seems like he's not truly involved in the ball game. And this young man is a very talented basketball player.
He sure is. Gatlin has to pick up his dribble. He gets it across to Lewis. It's a 4-point lead.
Maryland did a good job handling the trap.
Bias with his favorite shot, and he missed it again. Len Bias can't buy one since the opening couple of minutes of the ball game. Martin looked for Doherty, had him for a second. Now back to Martin, couldn't hold it.
It's a good play. just a poor pass right there. Martin had the easy opportunity.
Well, that's 6 turnovers against North Carolina. It seems like more than that. Maryland's committed 7.
One thing, though, about the turnovers that Carolina has committed, not very good shooting by either team, obviously.
Wouldn't want to write home about that.
No, you sure wouldn't. But the passes that Carolina is turning the ball over are attempts for a 4 or 2-point play. They haven't been, careless turnovers out in the backcourt.
Bias is being guarded by Hale, who is really North Carolina's best defensive player, but he gives up 4, almost 5 inches. And Derek Lewis is having a real tough first half. He travels on this play.
Sloppy game.
Carolina's basketball with 6:09 to go.
You see that? When Bias has touched the basketball at the offensive end of the court, they've been scoring 12.5% of the time. Not very good.
Hale tries to get it inside and does to Doherty. 21-15, and Carolina has its biggest lead at 6, and Doherty has 7 points. And they're going to call Madden for holding inside as Terry Long is back in the pivot. Madden at 6'5" is going to have to hold Terry Long at 6'8".
Well, those are 2 big young men in there, and they could really bang each other pretty well. But of course, Long has a few inches height-wise against Madden. Madden is, a very highly recruited freshman. Just hasn't played as well as I think Dean Smith had anticipated him in his freshman year.
Bias trying to get off the mark. Baxter's been the offensive threat. Misses this one. Long offensive rebound. Nice fake by Long. Got the basket and drew the foul.
Well, you brought up the point about Madden physically having to play against Long, and there was an example of it. There's the shot. He just had that excellent position on the offensive boards and still was able to maintain that concentration and knock the field goal in.
Foul on Thompson was his 3rd, and with Wolf injured, they're going to have to bring Kevin Madden back in off the bench.
Another point is if you look at Brad Doherty as it is now, he's just going to have to go the rest of the way for Carolina.
Not going to get much rest.
He's not going to get any rest.
3-point play for Terry Long, which cuts the lead to 3. Hale back quickly the other way. Good pass inside to Madden. Long blocked the shot.
Oh, great defensive play by Long.
Tremendous patience by the 6'8" center. Bias wants the ball, and they're going to call a foul on Len Bias for pushing off underneath. That will be his 2nd.
Well, here's the entry pass to Madden. He's trying to get the 2 players to commit themselves. They do, but Long still is able to block that shot.
Foul on Len Bias, his 2nd, as lefty Drizel did not care for the call.
Well, what happened was Hale was trying to get around in front Bias, and Bias stuck his arm out and just pushed him a little bit further out in the court, trying not to allow him to get that position.
Hale at the line where he's an 80% shooter. 5 points on the night for the senior from Jenks, Oklahoma, and he is 3 for 3 from the line.
I think if there was any question about his value to this Carolina ball club, it was answered with his absence. They have not had much success either last year when he was hurt or this year.
And our congratulations to Steve Hale, who's been accepted to North Carolina's medical school. He's been a biology major and hoped to go there. Long gets it inside, blocked. Long got it back. Nice reverse layup. 5 for Terry Long, and they've all come in the last 30 seconds. It's still a 3-point game.
Terry Long has got 5 points, and he only averages 3+ a game.
Doherty short on the jumper. The announcers for this game are approved and selected by Raycom Sports, Jefferson Pilot Teleproductions. Any broadcast, duplication, or reception as Lewis scores without the express written permission of Raycom Sports, Jefferson Pilot Teleproductions is prohibited. And all at once, Maryland has wakened up from whatever they were in. It's been a strange game, but
it sure has. And it's, being the tournament, you would expect a little more consistency, especially at the defensive end of the court by both teams. But we have not seen that. Even though the field goal percentages are low, I think there has been some poor shooting, some good shot opportunities, like Brad Doherty's last shot. He had a wide open shot from 8 feet.
It's very reminiscent, actually, of the North Carolina State-Virginia first half.
Well, in the whole tournament, really, hasn't it been? You know, the Duke Wake game, Duke did not play well. Wake played pretty well in that game, and then in the first half in the Clemson Georgia Tech game.
Warren Martin comes into the ball game. Madden will leave. Both teams still shooting under 36%. Maryland right at 36. North Carolina 1 out of 3 from the floor, 33%.
Warren Martin really is limping out there.
That's going to be goaltending on Bias. He protests, but it was an obvious call. Got there late. Bias trying to make up on the defensive end of the floor what he has not been able to do on the offense.
Len Bias will get his points somehow, some way. When you're as fine a basketball player as he is, he'll find a way either to get on the offensive boards, to get out in a running situation to score. He'll find a way. He won't quit.
Lewis, air ball, Long with a foul. Long got it back. And the foul will be against Carolina inside.
Right now, there's Doherty flashing across the lane. That Bias can get up off his feet.
Can he?
Yeah, but right now we see where Steve Hale is in a situation where he has to play Terry Long, and I think that's why the substitution's coming in, Madden, to match up a little bit better physically on the inside right now against this Maryland team.
Foul was on Steve Hale, his second, and Long will go back to the free throw line. This young man's had quite a first half. Missed the free throw. 25-22, North Carolina by 3. Really, both teams, the way things have gone, Billy, lucky to not be down by 10 points.
That's right, but when you have two teams that know each other as well as these teams, excellent shot by Doherty, good ball movement, when they know each other's moves inside and out. Like we were talking about before the game, what tricky things could one of the coaches do in this game? Not very much. They just know each other, coaching against each other for 17 years.
Bias gets it knocked away at Smith, and he is fouled by Gatlin. And that was not a gentle foul either.
Well, here we see good pressure on the ball. And there they go, off and running. And Kenny Smith had made up his mind around 1 foot off over half court that he was going to take it all the way. See him keeping the ball out there, protecting it so the man can't reach in there and knock it loose.
Lewis is going to check out. Speedy Jones back in as Smith will go to the line. Doherty, incidentally, has passed Bob Lewis for 8 all-time on the North Carolina scoring list. And Steve Bucknall will come in for the first time, the freshman from London, England, as Madden will sit down. Dean Smith with a 5-point lead and a chance to build on it, trying to get some extra players in there.
But to add on what I was talking about, these teams knowing each other and the field goal percentages down, you will see this from here on in the tournament. Defense is going to be the dominant force. Because these teams, as I said, this is the 3rd time they're playing against each other. They are playing in the tournament. The intensity is a little higher than it might have been during the regular season, and the concentration level is a little higher. So we'll see defense being the factor.
Kenny Smith, who has missed some big free throws in the last few weeks of the season, it's 1 out of 2. Timeout with 3:13 to go. Don't go away.
Executive Director of the U.S. Olympics Festival in 1987. Hill, you've got an exciting event coming down to North Carolina in 87. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, Terry, it's an event of our United States Olympic Committee. It's got 34 sports in it, all the sports of the Summer Olympics and even some of the Winter Olympics. It's going to be right here in North Carolina in 1987.
I'm sure we have some Olympic contenders right out here tonight. Thanks for being with us. Also, Joe Wolf has a badly sprained ankle. They will reevaluate his injury at halftime. That's a big one. They need him.
3 minutes, 13 seconds to go, and there's Joe Wolf on the bench. Remember, he went down hard early in the first half.
Well, I'll tell you right now, that's it for him tonight. You will not see any more of Joe Wolf. No way. Anytime you see a player sitting there and with just the ice on his ankle, not taped up, not even looking like he has a chance to get in the ball game, all that's going to happen is the swelling will increase, the pain, and he will not have much flexibility with that ankle. So if he's not through for tonight and Carolina keeps going, I would expect him to be through for the weekend.
Bias still looking for another field goal. Now first they counted the basket, then they waved it off. Which one's it going to be? No basket.
Well, is Len Bias just this is what's so great about him. He has the ability to beat you on the inside, shoot the jump shot, or put it on the floor and create something for himself.
Foul was on Bucknall, his first. Lefty wanted a basket. North Carolina right now with its biggest lead at 28-22. And Len Bias had only 2 points in this ball game. 1 of 7 from the floor, hits the free throw.
You know, when he breaks the record tonight, the all-time scoring record at University of Maryland, you think they'll stop the game?
They will not stop the game. They should, but they will not. I think any record like that, no matter not just for Bias, but any player, they ought to do it like the other sport.
Oh,
stop it.
No question. It's the highlight of his career, probably. Breaking the all-time record by Albert King. And what the heck is 20 seconds?
That's right.
And basketball.
This game is being brought to you in part by Mercedes-Benz. And Carolina's lead will go back to 6 at 30-24.
Curtis Hunter, a player that has been plagued by injuries throughout his career at Carolina.
And a walk on Len Bias. I'd love to see what Curtis Hunter could have done if he'd been healthy.
Yeah, but right now it looks like Len Bias is getting a little frustrated with himself. He's just trying some way to get himself going. One thing I always felt that when a player is struggling like Bias is right now at the offensive end of the court, try and get to the offensive boards. Try and get a cheap basket here or there. And that seems to get yourself rolling, and all of a sudden everything falls back into place.
Madden left alone, goes up for a shot. Doherty with a follow. Brad Doherty having another one of those big offensive performances. He's got 13 tonight.
Well, here's Carolina going to a zone and try and force Maryland team shoot from the outside, and we only have 1:50 to play in this half.
Biggest lead of the game for North Carolina. Baxter is open, passes on the shot. Baxter open again. Bias wants the ball, but they're very cognizant of him in there.
That's good aggressive defense by Carolina. And the Maryland Terps on the outside, the guards are tentative again at the offensive end.
What a move by Bias. He was double teamed and just spun inside. He has 7 points and has become Maryland's all-time leading scorer. And the ball will go out of bounds to Maryland. Len Bias has just scored his 2059th career point.
That last move was a great move, but I have just had the opportunity to see too much of him, and nothing surprises me. I guess it was like when I had the opportunity to coach Julius Erving, and I just saw everything you could possibly see. And the great players, it's a shame sometimes you just get used to seeing the exceptional moves by them.
That's right, the great becomes commonplace.
Yeah.
Bias out of the corner, and he's not hot yet. Kenny Smith comes down. 9-second differential on the game and shot clock, so Carolina might hold the ball for a while, but here's the whistle and the foul.
One thing I've wondered this year watching this Maryland ball club is why they wouldn't run more after they're getting a defensive rebound or creating turnovers, because they have such outstanding athletes on this ball club, and they have a guard like Keith Gatlin, who is the all-time leading assist man for the Maryland ball club. But I'm sure Coach Drizel knows his team a lot better than I do sitting over here.
Tom Jones has picked up his second personal foul, and Doherty will go back to the free throw line trying to add to his 13 points, and does. Doherty ranks second in scoring in the conference, second in rebounding. He's first in the nation in field goal percentage and 10th in free throw percentage. This young man has really worked hard to become a great player.
And the scary thing is he's only 20 years old.
Yeah.
And he's a senior. You know, and he's just got a great future ahead of him, as well as Len Bias, when they next year are playing in the professional level.
34-26, matching North Carolina's biggest lead, and Maryland will play up to the last shot.
Well, to start the second half, this Maryland ball club, especially Keith Gatlin, I can't remember mentioning his name 2 or 3 times after the first few minutes of this basketball game, or the last time he made that lob pass.
Lewis against Martin and got the bucket. 13 seconds to go.
A little too early for that shot. I'm sure Coach Drizel loved the 2 points, but they don't want to give Carolina a chance to get that 8-point lead again.
Lebo won't go. Doherty got his hands on it again, knocked out of bounds. It's out to North Carolina. The buzzer is sounded. Is it the end of the half? Now the officials signaling that it is. That will be the end of the first half as time runs out. North Carolina had the last crack at it, but couldn't score, and it's 34-28. Let's check in with Paul Cameron.
Okay, Mike. Lenny Bias now has the record all-time leading scorer in Maryland. Joe Wolf is on the bench, it appears, for the second half. He's got that ice pack on his ankle. And Len Elmore, as soon as you saw that, you said it looks like he's going to be out for good.
Well, anytime, as Billy said before, you place ice on someone's ankle, they're through. You're going to wind up having stiffness, and you're trying to abate the swelling, and that's what happens in this case.
It appears this first half is fairly ridden on the shoulders of Big Brad Doherty. Doherty did not hit the shots early on, and consequently, Maryland had an early lead, but when Doherty hits, North Carolina gets back in the game.
Well, Maryland hasn't really adjusted to their lack of an offensive or at least a defensive center, and so Brad Doherty's been exploiting that situation.
All right, that's how we see it up here. Let's go back courtside with Mike Patrick.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you, Len. It's a little unusual to watch a game like this because you've seen Len Bias get his shots, and it's so unusual to see him miss that many shots. It really throws Maryland's offense off. North Carolina, I think, is going to hurt by the fact that Joe Wolf left the ball game so early, and they count on Wolf so much, especially since Halen Martin has been injured.
That's right, and Warren Martin is limping up and down the court, but in the second half, as Len Elmore mentioned, that Maryland's got to do something about their inside game defensively. They cannot allow Brad Doherty to just roam in the lane and get the ball 8 feet from the basket. They're going to be in for a long night.
This is game 4 of the opening round of the Atlantic Coast Conference, and it's a 6-point lead for North Carolina. We'll be back with more of our halftime show right after this.
Mazda Cars and Trucks. I want to take again a look at how Joe Wolf got hurt. Came down on his ankle, and I'll tell you for a second, Len Elmore, I had shades of that Joe Theismann injury where the leg does something funny. It makes you a little squeamish almost. We're going to take a look at that replay once again.
Well, that's one of the reasons you tape your ankles, because you want to keep at least the stability. Here you see the injury occurred, and you can watch the twist there. The injury occurred before the contact with Terry Long, and I'm sure that hurts.
And he is in the locker room right now being reevaluated. What about Lenny Bias, though? Really, he's got his 7 points. He's the all-time leading scorer now in Maryland, but is he that effective here in the first half?
Well, Len Bias wasn't effective, and maybe this takes the monkey off of his back, if in fact he was concentrating on getting that record. Maryland, though, has to be happy. Here we have an ineffective Len Bias, and they're still only 6 points down. They weathered some pretty heavy onslaughts by North Carolina, but Carolina, on the other hand, will continue to pound inside.
See what happens in the second half. This has been the Mazda Game Plan, brought to you by Mazda Cars and Trucks. Well, fans, one of the 7 finalists in the Pepsi Superfan contest has been chosen, and her name is Donna Reimer of Canton, North Carolina. And, of course, she was asked to give a rhyme or some sentences in 25 words or less, and it goes like this. We're the ACC and Pepsi, too, jamming on down, playing it cool. There's nobody around that's better, you see, born winners in the ACC. Folks, tune in Sunday to find out the winner of the all-expense-paid trip for 2 to the 1987 ACC tournament. What's going on in the locker room?
Well, I know that Dean Smith is telling his players that, you know, we've got an advantage, a size advantage. Brad Doherty is really dominating inside. We've got to look for him. We've got to keep up the pressure and create some turnovers, because when we run on the turnovers, we've done extremely well. Lefty Drizel, on the other hand, is telling his guys, look, you know, we're going to have to go to someone other than Len Bias. Lenny, you've got to pass the ball if you're double and triple team. Don't force it, and we'll be okay.
I got a feeling between me and you that the second half, the last 20 minutes, we're going to see much better basketball, perhaps some better shooting whatsoever. All right, we've got more from Greensboro's Coliseum, the 1986 ACC Basketball Championships, and we'll be back after this with your local stations.
Court violation.
That's a good call by the official. Kenny Smith was in the air when he left the front court to go to the back court. That's just concentration. That is so frustrating from a coaching standpoint. I can't tell you. I'm lost for words watching something like that.
Gatlin wanted to pass the ball to Baxter, but Baxter was complaining the official had been fouled.
Interesting matchup now, because Steve Hale is now going to Derek Lewis, playing him on the inside.
And they've got Hobson on Len Bias, who takes a 19-footer. And would Lefty Driesell like to see Len Bias get the hot hand? He has 9 right now. The lead is down to 4. A lot of people disappointed in that first half. Pretty ragged by both ball clubs after we had seen 2 tremendous games during the regular season between these two.
I'm sure Dean Smith, even though he was up 6 points, had to be disappointed.
Lebo misses the long jumper. Gatlin with the rebound. Joe Wolf, we are told, is out for a week with that sprained ankle. So he will not return tonight and will be available when North Carolina goes into the NCAA tournament, as they certainly will.
You know, when you get snake bitten like that, you start wondering, what did I do wrong to cause all these injuries?
Almost knocked away by Lebo. Baxter has it.
This is something they did in the one game against North Carolina. They looked to isolate Baxter one-on-one on Lebo and had success.
Baxter inside, floated it over Doherty. What a shot by Jeff Baxter, who now has 8 points. And here we have a 2-point ball game.
Well, we saw that the Maryland team came out a little more aggressive at the defensive end of the court. Carolina not as aggressive as they were in the first half.
Loose ball, Doherty knocked it out of bounds. It'll be out to Maryland. And Dave Thompson misses the jumper. Thompson's had to play a lot of minutes tonight with Wolf out. Bias wants to go one-on-one with him. They get it to Long and back to Bias.
Well, Thompson's lucky. When he went to double down low, he left Bias open, and that's one man on this club you just don't leave open.
Here is the foul called on Derek Lewis inside, pushing and shoving with Steve Hale.
That's the second foul that he's been able to pick up when they've tried to post him up. In the first half, we saw Bias trying to post him up, and he was able to draw the offensive foul.
Hale doesn't miss a thing, does he?
No, he doesn't. He's a player from a coaching standpoint you just love to have on your team, and he is the heart of this Carolina ball club.
Doherty with a jumper, in and out, rebound Lewis. Well, Hale got into medical school. You don't do that unless you're bright.
Yeah, Brad Doherty can't ask for any better shot than he had that time down the court. He just hasn't been able to knock anything in. Maryland with a chance to tie the ball game. 17:35 left. Looking to isolate Lebo against Baxter. Baxter pulls up and dead-eye drills it. Tied at 34. Baxter has 10, and he's been in double figures now 5 of his last 6, and Maryland has got to have that from the guards. Well, Baxter just seems to have a lot of confidence when he sees Lebo playing against him. Yeah. And of course, Lebo didn't do badly against Baxter in that first meeting either. Doherty hits the bucket and draws the foul. Big shot for Carolina. Again, Doherty's just getting that ball in that such good position down low. And if you're giving up that much in size, you're just going to be in trouble. He's going to miss a few, but before it's all over with, he's going to get you. Now, that was sort of a silly foul by Terry Long with a reach-in. And Doherty will try to complete the three-point play. Already with 17, making 18 points for the big guy. Just see which team is what we're going to see. The team that's going to win this ball game is going to be the team that gets that aggressiveness at the defensive end of the court and is able to sustain it. Gatlin goes to the baseline against Hale, banked it home. Maryland playing much more confidently here in the second half. Long trying to create some trouble down court. And the 2 guards for the Terps have been able to score some points. Hobson's turnaround jumper won't go. Gatlin with a long rebound, and Lewis is holding an eye. Got hit in the face. There's some big hands going through there. Yeah, you have to be a man to be in there now, especially here we are in the second half, and it's only a 1-point basketball game. Let's take a look. There's Popson with the jump hook. Yeah, he just got a little elbow. Yeah, got an elbow from Steve Hale on the side of the head. Bam. Oh, yeah. That'll clear your sinus. Yeah. And Lewis is going to come out. Lefty Driesell gives him a big hand. Tom Speedy Jones will check in. Carolina with a 1-point lead. And the Terps have been perfect from the floor in the second half. It seems like the Terps are looking to isolate their guards a little bit more at the offensive end of the court, either Gatlin or Baxter. The exchange steals here, and Tom Jones with a jumper puts Maryland ahead, 38-37, and this is the way we expected this ball game to go, back and forth. Well, Carolina scored a total of 4 points so far in this half. Doherty's jumper won't go. Bias with a rebound.
And it's been all Doherty. If he doesn't score, Carolina doesn't score.
You're exactly right, and they have to get, just like the Maryland team, where they have to get other people involved besides Len Bias. The Carolina team has got to have somebody to contribute at the offensive end of the court besides Brad Doherty.
And we've got a foul on North Carolina with 15:53 to go in the ball game. Timeout with Maryland leading North Carolina 38-37. Back after this from Budweiser. Again, starting at 1 o'clock tomorrow, Paul Cameron will host the ACC Sports Center, and then we'll have the semifinals in the afternoon. That's one of the highlights in all of college basketball. The ACC semifinals, it'll be Virginia against Duke. Georgia Tech waiting to see who wins this one. Gatlin baseline, and Maryland is on a tear. The Terps have outscored North Carolina in the second half 12-3 and have a 3-point lead.
Well, they just came out, were ready for Carolina's trap. Gatlin took the ball in, made the pass, the double team, and got the good open shot.
Knocked away, 2-on-1 break. Gatlin will take it himself. Missed the shot, Bias tipped it in. And it's 42-37, and Dean Smith may have to use a timeout to stop this run, which has now reached 14-3. Another miss and another Maryland possession. I asked you during the commercial, Billy, how can Maryland play the way they did in the first half and come out and play this way in the second half?
If I knew that answer, I'd be coaching.
Gatlin again with Kenny Smith all over it. And it's 44-37.
Well, the guards of the Terps have come out in the second half and just doing a great job.
What a turnaround. 14:53 to go in the game. Maryland by 7. Back after this.
That in the first half, it was about 22.7, and now it's 66.7. Now you say, well, he didn't score any of those field goals, but when you have a great player like a Len Bias, when they're in there on the court and they're handling the basketball at all, they force the defense to react, and that opens up some other things for their team.
Maryland has outscored North Carolina 16-3 in the second half. Lebo trying to break the drought and can't. Bias with a rebound. North Carolina is 1 of 8 in the half. Maryland is 8 of 9, and that's the kind of things that streaks are made of. Gatlin alley-oop, a little too tall for Jones. Doherty had it, lost it, and the foul is going to be on Tom Jones, and that's the first thing Maryland's done wrong since the half.
And Carolina was fortunate because Keith Gatlin just threw that ball a little too high. Otherwise, that would have been a 2 points for Speedy Jones. Now, this Carolina club has just got to get themselves going. There's no intensity out there, and the only way they're going to do it, they're not going to do it at this offensive end of the court. This team has got to get after the Maryland Terps at the defensive end of the court. And they have
fouls on Jones.
And another thing, they have a small lineup in there now, Carolina, so they will have the ability to put some defensive pressure. But the way these Maryland guards are playing, well, we see another turnover.
And unlike the first half, North Carolina, that time they didn't get any shot, but they are not getting second shots.
Yeah, you can feel the confidence of this Maryland team just building, just sitting right here at courtside.
Baxter isolated on Lebo.
Bang.
Boy, just load up and give me some fresh ammo. 46-37, Maryland's biggest lead.
Well, you talk about a helpless feeling sitting over there, and guys are drilling 20-footers the way this Maryland team is at this point. And how did it all start, though? Len Bias came out of that locker room and hit that big jump shot, and that got them right off. You know, things like that just ignite the confidence in his teammates.
Hale finally gets one down, 46-39, 8 points for Steve Hale. That is the first man to score outside of Brad Doherty for North Carolina in 7 minutes of the second half. Now they're trying to do it with their defense. Bias won't go. Lebo with a rebound.
That was a tough shot, especially with Brad Doherty coming out at him. He should have just driven around him.
Kenny Smith with a miss. Hale with a follow. And there were nothing but blue shirts underneath the hoop that time.
How many times this year have we seen Steve Hale pick this team up and get them going in the right direction? I can think of the Duke game in Chapel Hill getting them going. The Marquette game out at Marquette. Just on and on.
Speedy Jones with a tough shot over Doherty. And Jones much the same for Maryland. He gets virtually no publicity, but he's hit some toughies too.
I tell you, we saw him last week against Virginia. He was the one that came out and sparked them in the second half and got this ball club going.
seconds left in the ball game. 48-41. Doherty with a tough catch. Missed the shot, but draws the foul, and they point at Terry Long.
Now we'll see. Brad Doherty will just flash in the lane too easy. You just can't let him do that, and I'm sure Terry Long is aware of that. But Doherty saw him turn his head. Defensively, you have to be in position where you see the ball, man, and you're between them and the basket.
Steve Hale had some mustard on that one, and Doherty made a great catch. Brad goes to the line. He is 4 of 5 tonight. Make it 5 out of 6.
Well, he loves playing here in Greensboro because the 2 games they played this year, he's shooting about 75% from the floor.
19 for Doherty, make it 20, and it's 48-43. The lead is cut to 5. Almost stolen, now it is, and Hale walked. Tough break for Steve Hale after he made the steal and just couldn't control it.
Well, one thing about a trap, if you have the ability to steal the basketball once or twice and force a team to become tentative, you really have them right where you want. Now here you see Steve Hale stepping right in the lane. Just couldn't get control of it. That was a break for the Maryland team.
Baxter with a tough catch. Gets it across. 11 minutes, 56 seconds to go in the final game of day 1 of the ACC tournament. It's Maryland by 5. Their guards have been terrific here in the second half. This is Derek Lewis. Tough shot, but he gets the foul, and it's going to be called on Thompson, and we have that as number 4 on Thompson.
Right now, everyone on Maryland is contributing at the offense and defensive end of the court. We've seen Speedy Jones, Gatlin, and Baxter. Bias playing great, and there's Derek Lewis now looking for the ball and being aggressive.
And Warren Martin limps into the ball game. Just had the cast taken off a sprained foot the other day. And Thompson will have to come out with his 4th personal foul.
And he's dragging that foot.
Yes, he is.
Yeah. And even before that injury, he was deceptively slow.
Deceptively slow. Lewis, a 70% shooter, misses the first one. In an earlier game against Carolina, he had 10 points, 10 rebounds, and 10 blocks. Second free throw also way short. Loose ball. Bias has it. Look out for this. Blocked by Doherty, but Bias gets it back. And they'll call Doherty, and the Carolina players are really upset. They thought Bias pulled one off and leaned in, and frankly, so did I.
I did too. Now we'll take a look at the replay, and we'll be able to see if that did happen, because it looked like Brad Doherty after the first block. Now watch Warren Martin. He never has the ability to leave his feet at that point, and that just tells you that young man is showing a lot of heart out there trying to play. Now here's the first block. Now we'll take a look when Bias gets possession of the ball. Doherty has the good position.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. That's an offensive foul.
Len Bias leaned into one there and picked up the foul on Brad Doherty, his second. Dean Smith not happy about it at all. That's the 3rd team foul against Carolina in this half. Maryland has committed 4. And Bias almost missed the free throw, and that would have been a story in itself. Hit 32 in a row, 1 streak this year. He's number 1.
Yeah, he's shooting 86% from the foul line.
4 for 4 tonight, 12 points for Maryland's all-time leading scorer, and he did miss one. 49-43, a 6-point lead. Hale left alone. Now he has to kick it off. Doherty saves it. Rancino Smith in for the first time. Doesn't take him long to unload.
Well, what's going on right now is Dean Smith's just looking for somebody to ignite them. I would love to, if I was sitting on Carolina's bench, look for Kenny Smith to ignite me.
Gatlin has Baxter wide open. Baxter misses. And Bias with a rebound. Hale almost stole it from him. And Bias just makes a baseball pass out to Gatlin.
That looked like a grapefruit in his hand.
In his hand, it is a grapefruit. 10:54 left. North Carolina continues to chop away at that lead. They have it down to 4 right now. Maryland moving the ball very well. Baxter out of the corner. Fold missed this one. And we've got a foul underneath.
It's on Brad Doherty.
And that will be number 3 on Doherty. Now remember, Thompson is on the bench with 4. Wolf is on the bench with an injury. So Carolina all at once this tremendously deep team is getting thin up front. Combination of fouls and injuries.
Yeah, and Brad Doherty, not only is he the one at the offensive end of the court, he's out there trying to contest Len Bias, and he's got his hands full.
Now, North Carolina trying to get a substitute into the ball game, but it had already been set for play, and the official scorers sounded the horn, and the officials say, no, you can't do that. He'll have to come in later. They're trying to get Lebo into the ball game.
It'll be interesting to see if Maryland will look to go inside and try and get the ball to Speedy Jones matched up against Steve Hale.
And they do. He missed the shot, however. Rancino Smith comes out with it. Maryland's had 4 good shots in a row, but all the ones the Terps have gone cold.
Yeah, one thing Maryland's done an excellent job of is when Carolina's gotten the fast break opportunities, they've gotten back so well defensively, stopping the transition game.
Derek Lewis with excellent defense there, got a hand on it, and Maryland comes out, alley-oop, and Jones puts it in, and oh, did he go down hard.
Well, Warren Martin just could not jump. He could not get off that foot at all. And you just, if you see that, he could not even dunk that basketball right there.
He is really hurting.
Oh, he's really struggling getting up and down.
Give him all the credit in the world for guts, though.
Well, that's the reason he's a basketball player today, because he doesn't have the great athletic ability, but he's worked very hard to help himself become a player.
Baxter with a great save down the lane. What a shot by Baxter.
Well, this Maryland team is just on fire, and they've been able to maintain this intensity.
Hale back the other way. Let's see. Basket counts. But is it a charge or a block? They're waiting for Baxter to get up. Basket counts, and it is a charge on Steve Hale. That will be his 3rd.
Now let's just take a look at Warren Martin trying to get up and down the court. He's out there trying to run.
I really feel it for Warren Martin right now. He is hurting.
That's a lot of heart.
It is a 4-point ball game, 53-49. Boy, this second half has lived up to every expectation. Gatlin with a tough shot, won't go. Lebo with a rebound, ahead to Smith. Off to Doherty, loose ball, Lebo. And we've got a foul on Maryland. Jeff Lebo made that play.
Well, first of all, that was a poor decision by Kenny Smith. You don't give a 7-footer the ball 18 feet from the basket. His area, you give it to him 8, 9 feet from the basket, and Carolina was fortunate to get that ball, recover the ball, and Lebo would get the foul.
Foul was on Speedy Jones. That will be number 4 on Jones, and Lebo goes to the line. Chance to cut the lead to 2. Got the first one.
You know what? I wonder if with Carolina playing man-to-man defense and Brad Doherty having to match up against Byers, at least he had before Popson came in the ball game, would you isolate Byers against Doherty, try and have him pick up his 4th foul? And as we saw on that thing with the injury problems and the foul problems with the other players on Carolina, that would really put them with their back against the wall size-wise inside.
Here's the press, and they throw away. Great save by Baxter. Terps got lucky on that. To answer your question, I'd be willing to isolate Len Bias on anybody.
Yes, true.
Including King Kong.
Well, we see Steve Hale is against Bias right now, and I'm sure Len would like to get that ball in a post-up position against Steve Hale.
Maryland has cut the lead to 2 with 8:44 left. Gatlin left all alone. Missed the shot. Tip won't go. Another tip. And Popson back in the ball game is really frowning because they're pointing at him. That would be number 5 on Popson.
Well, he just did not check off the defensive boards, and Long was able to get that good position, and all Popson could do is go over the bank.
And Dave Popson, the junior from Ashley, Pennsylvania, has fouled out of the ball game with 8:39 left. Joe Wolf is already out, we're told, for a week with an injury. Brad Doherty has had virtually no rest. He has 3 fouls, and Warren Martin is just struggling so hard to move it all.
You know, I just think early in the year, you see a Carolina team that have Wolf, Martin, Doherty on the court. 7 feet, 6'10". Right now, all of a sudden, they're one of the smaller teams in the conference.
Now, right now, they got Kevin Madden playing one forward at 6'5", the other forward is Steve Hale at 6'4".
That's right. It's amazing what can happen during the course of a season.
Long to Bias down the lane, lost it, got it back, and hit the shot. Triple team. 55-51. Maryland back to 4, and Bias has 14. Doherty wants the ball inside. Hale instead, free for a 15-footer. Missed it. Bias with another rebound. Oh, what a job he's done on the board, Billy.
Well, he's come out and showed us why he's the great All-American, which he is. Now with Carolina, with the lineup they have in there, they'll look to go to their passing game even more because it's going to force the bigger players, the Long, the Lewis, and the Byers to come out and play smaller people on the court.
Gatlin takes Smith to the baseline and burns him with a jumper, and the lead is back to 6 at 57-51. Gatlin has 10. This is Lebo, great shooter.
It'll be interesting to see what impact that has on Jeff Lebo the last 7.5 minutes of this ball game because he can light it up.
Lebo guarding Baxter, reaches in, guessed wrong, and commits the person. That'll only be number 1 on Lebo, but it should be the 7th team foul against North Carolina, and that will put Maryland in a bonus situation. We'll find out when we come back. 7:31 left. It's Maryland by 4. We're a little premature. We left and they didn't. The players stayed on the court. Jeff Baxter shot 2 free throws, hit them both. 59-53, and now we have a timeout. And let's talk about this. Maryland came out as hot as I've seen the ball club all year at the start of the second half. Outscored Carolina something on the order of 15-3 as we started to have. But when these guys square off, nobody gives up. And Carolina has fought back. They've closed it as close as 2. Right now they're down by 6 with 7:31 to go. This is everything we talked about before this game started. This is what it could have been.
But we never thought we'd see this type of lineup in there as Carolina does. And we see in the second half, Maryland outscoring Carolina 31-19. Now, a couple of things can happen. At the defensive end of the court, Carolina, because they're so small, they have to go out, I think, and put a lot of defensive pressure. Force the Maryland team out on the court because I would expect them to be looking to go inside anytime they have a chance because they're going to have some mismatches. At the offensive end of the court, they're going to look to run their passing game as much as possible because they're going to have an advantage on the perimeter because they'll be a little quicker than the Maryland Terps. So we'll have to look and see if the Terps are able to get the ball inside against the smaller Carolina team and if they're going to be able to dominate the boards, which is a very strong possibility unless Brad Doherty does the job for them.
2 of the big Carolina forwards on the bench. Dave Hobson is fouled out. Joe Wolf with a sprained ankle. He'll be out at least a week. At the conclusion of our game, stay with us. We'll be choosing a player from each team as the Holly Farms Players of the Game. Maryland with 1 man in foul trouble is Tom Speedy Jones. He's on the bench with 4.
You know, it's funny, going into this game, I thought that the Carolina team would have been the team that would put Maryland in foul trouble, and the roles have been reversed.
Sure have. Bucknall and whistle. They're going to call a foul on Gatlin for reaching in. That'll be number 2 on Gatlin. And the 6th team foul against Maryland, 1 more, and both clubs will be in the bonus.
Well, that was a silly, cheap foul by Keith, you know, just reaching in there. And we saw Jeff Lebo, the last foul by Carolina was not a smart foul either.
Lebo will inbound for Kenneth Smith. 7 minutes, 9 seconds left.
Well, it just brings back memories of the game we did up in Maryland.
Doesn't it?
When Carolina was down, what, about 9 or 11 points at this point of the game, and were able to come back and win the ball game.
Both of these teams in the home-and-home series have staged dramatic comebacks that come from behind and win on the other team's court.
This is one of the few times we've seen Maryland in the zone, of course, the ball coming out of bounds.
And Hale whistles one through the hands of Bucknall, who couldn't catch it. That was a pass almost exactly the same that Doherty caught earlier. Bucknall couldn't hold this one.
Well, he would have needed a stick to knock that one down.
Good thing it didn't hit him in the chest. 13 turnovers for North Carolina.
But look at the rebound, 17-7 in the second half.
And Bias has 8 of them in the second half, 11 total. And Gatlin burns another one out of the corner. 61-53, Maryland has it back up to 8.
Well, I tell you, they are just shooting and playing with such confidence. There's no hesitation when they have that open shot.
And they've played this way every time out against North Carolina this year. Kenny Smith was short on the jumper, but Madden got that 6'5 frame up there for Bucknall and put it in. Back to 6 with 6 minutes even right now to go.
Carolina putting some defensive pressure. There's Bias looking to get isolated against Hale. Good hands by Hale.
Hale, how many times has he done that in 4 years at North Carolina. Must be 100 by now.
He's got to be a frustrating player to play against because you look at him. Well, there's old Villanova, my boy Rolly Massimino, struggling a little bit there tonight.
Louis got a piece of him tonight, 52-42. Lewis, a baseline drive. You don't see that very often, but he wanted the hoop and got it. Back to 8. Lewis has 8 points on the night. They get it inside. Missed shot. Holy cow, Bucknall was wide open, and I think it surprised him.
Yep, well, that's the way it's been going for Carolina this whole second half.
Time becoming a factor. 5 minutes, 19 seconds left, and it's Maryland by 8 over North Carolina. Gatlin again hits the big shot. 14 points for Gatlin. And Dean Smith wants another timeout to stop the streak as Maryland's lead goes to 10 with 5:09 to go from the ACC tournament in Greensboro. We'll be back right after this. 122 games. Dean Smith wins 577. Not a couple of bad records to put together, huh?
I don't know how they've lasted that long.
Well, it's one short of 1,100. One of them is going to make that total of 1,100 tonight. Maryland in the second half, the guards have been on fire. Gatlin has 12. He had 2 in the first half. Baxter has 10. He had 6 in the first half. Kenny Smith has not scored in the second half for North Carolina.
Is this a crazy game, though? They played so poorly the first half, and the way they're playing the second half.
Everybody for North Carolina getting a piece of this, and the basket will not go, and Kevin Madden will pick up the foul underneath. And right now, the Tar Heels are getting a little bit frustrated.
That's exactly the word, frustrated. Madden goes up for the shot. There they are. Doherty can't get control of the basketball. Hale gives it a drive. And there's Madden pushing off on the inside. But this Maryland team has played the finest second half to this point of any team today.
Haven't they been terrific?
They have just played, they have beaten the Carolina Ball Club on the boards at every phase of the game in this second half. Just playing a great basketball game. So good, I have never seen Lefty so calm and reserved sitting on that bench.
Bias now 6 out of 7 from the free throw line, 16 points. This game is being brought to you in part by Mazda and Holly Farms. 4:44 left to go. Maryland with a 12-point lead. Hale throws up a prayer, and Bias with another rebound. He has at least a dozen in this ballgame.
Now the Maryland team will show a little patience, use a little bit of the clock. They're the ones under control, and there they are drawing the foul, and Bias will go to the foul line.
Hale committed the 4th, and Bias is the guy they want to send to the line. You mentioned Lefty Grizzell on the bench being very calm. This is the way he was in like the last 15 seconds of that upset win in Chapel Hill.
You know, another thing, we mentioned at the opening that this Maryland team has won 4 out of their last 5 ball games.
Right.
And one factor we forgot to mention is the game they lost was to Georgia Tech, who shot 70% from the field.
That's right. And 85.5% in the second half.
I know.
Bias hits the first, he'll get another. So when you got to shoot 85% in the second half to beat somebody, they must be playing pretty well.
To say the least.
Bias having an All-American game, although his point total isn't what it usually is. He only has 18 right now. And Maryland has its biggest lead, 69-55. Warren Marshall comes back in the ballgame. He is not moving well at all. But North Carolina needs something inside, and they got it from outside. Kenny Smith, that is his first points of the second half. 69-57. Gatlin against the pressure. Gives it up to Lewis, and now Baxter. Wide open. He doesn't hesitate. And Baxter drills another one. He has 18 points.
Well, you know, Lefty has just got to be ecstatic seeing his team come together and having everybody contribute. And we've seen this over the last week or two of the season, a team that was 0-6 in the conference. And Lefty obviously was a little upset by the play, but they were able to regroup, and they're playing as well as anybody that I have seen in the last few weeks in this
sure are. 3 minutes, 29 seconds to go. Maryland now milking a 14-point lead. Long to Gatlin, and he scores again. What a second half for Gatlin. He has 16 points total and approaching double figures in assists. And And Lewis gets the loose ball ahead to Baxter. Kenny Smith is back, and Baxter will take it in on him. Maybe an ill-advised shot there. They could have taken more time off the clock.
Oh, the way they're going, it's unusual they've made any type of mistakes.
Smith misses the shot. Hale and Long and Lewis, I believe, in a collision, and we've got a whistle on the foul.
You know, we still have 3 minutes to play, but if you're Dean Smith and you see a team like Maryland put on a display as they have in the second half, you just have to say, hey, they just played a great basketball game, and you just have to give them the credit and just say, hey, guys, we just have to get our heads up and be ready to go on into the NCAA.
Maryland has already scored 45 points in the second half. They had 28 in the first. Hale goes to the line.
And the thing about the 45 points, though, Mike, is they're not a transition team. They're not looking to push the basketball up and down the court and create that tempo. They have just played a flawless game. Excuse me, a flawless second half, that is.
Yeah, the first half was, again, nothing to write home about. It's about as poorly as Maryland has played in the last month and a half of the year.
Well, first thing that Carolina has to do is somehow get their team healthy. If they have any plans going into the NCAA to move on, and I'm sure that they do. But if you're not healthy, I don't care how great a coach you are, you're just not going to be successful.
Curtis Hunter comes in. Hale will go out for defensive purposes. North Carolina is going to have to go for steals. Less than a minute to go in the Southeastern Conference. Kentucky in danger against LSU. Here's a steal. Smith down the lane has it blocked, but he draws the foul, and that's what he was looking to do. And then he and Derek Lewis, a little shoving in there, and we've got a technical foul against somebody. Doherty wants more of Lewis, and now Bias steps in, and boy, you hate to see this. And Dean Smith is out on the court saying, hey guys, let's calm it down, and he is lecturing Brad Doherty. Give a lot of credit to Dean Smith for doing what he did. All he's trying to do is calm it down so nobody gets hurt.
Sure, you just don't want to see it get into any fist fight or anything like that. It was just, you know, I couldn't see exactly what went on, but I'm sure there's a little frustration on Kenny Smith's part. You know, I couldn't see how hard he got hit going to the basket by Derek Lewis, but we'll take a look at it. And here he is taking the ball strong to the basket.
There's the block.
Well, you know, that was just a good, clean, hard basketball play right there. Just two players trying to block the shot.
Now, Lewis said something, Smith said something back, then apparently Len Bias said something, and Bias got the tee. We are told from the official score, Maryland would be silly to do something like this and let it get away. They are only up by 14 points.
Well, if they make the 4 free throws right here, and they'll get the ball inside out of bounds, all of a sudden we have an 8-point basketball game with 2:55 to play in this basketball game. So, as we know, anything can happen, especially when these two teams meet.
This is going to look like a clinic. Kenny Smith is going to be there for a long time. He gets the 2 personal fouls. Now we'll shoot the 2 technicals. It's 73-61 technical, rather. It was not a bench technical called on a player.
I'm sure Lenny had a few magical words to the official to get a technical foul.
Well, he at least said one right one. And now North Carolina will get the ball. They're within 11 points. And Maryland all at once getting ready to celebrate, looks up at the scoreboard, and they may have a game to fight again.
Yeah, possible 3-point play right here, and we got ourselves a heck of a basketball game.
It's already been that, hasn't it, in the second half? Kenny Smith trying to create something out to Hunter. Line driver, got it.
You see what I mean about Kenny Smith the last 2 plays?
Yes.
How aggressive he has been with the basketball.
We've got a timeout. Let's think about this one. 2 minutes, 48 seconds to go. The lead is down to 9. Don't go away. It's left to go in the game. It's Maryland leading North Carolina 74-63. And the Tar Heels will try to use that pressure defense ability to get even closer.
Oh, they have a small lineup in there, the quickest lineup they can put on the court.
This is what's coming up tomorrow, the ACC Sports Center at 1 o'clock, and then we've got the semifinals, Virginia against Duke, and Georgia Tech will play the winner of this Maryland-Carolina game.
I think they have a cut here for Paul Cameron. He's just going to stay overnight. Right. He's been here all day with Lenny Elmore. They've done a great job.
Get those guys a couple of bottles of No-Dos and keep them going. Lewis across the timeline. North Carolina, and Kenny Smith reaches in, commits the personal. North Carolina, this is the 32nd year of this tournament. They have only been eliminated in the first round 6 times in 32 years. This would be the 7th if this lead holds up.
Well, I hate to tell you, I was part of that one time.
Were you?
Yeah.
You helped out.
Oh, yeah, I helped out. But, you know, Kenny Smith was a little upset with that foul, but Derek Lewis does go in those streaks where he has a tough time from the foul line, and he has struggled today.
Lewis, a 70% shooter, is 0 for 1 tonight. Got this one. Remember in the game at Chapel Hill, Maryland was almost unconscious on free throws. They lived at the line.
And in the first half, that was the big difference between the two teams.
Exactly.
Carolina shooting 12 for 14 from the foul line, whereas Maryland was 4 out of 5.
Tom Jones comes out. Terry Long comes in for defense at 74-64 with 2:39 to go. Lewis hits the second.
Well, we know one thing. If Maryland's able to hold on, and all the question marks about them going to the NCAA, we know that he's going to be going, that Maryland will be in the NCAA for sure. There will be no doubts about it.
That's for sure. Steve Hale commits the offensive foul, and Steve Hale has fouled out of the ballgame.
Here's Steve Hale looking to create something, get a three-point play, or just get his team going, and we picked up the offensive foul.
Gets a pat on the back as he goes to the bench. Steve Hale coming off that partially collapsed lung. Leaves with 14 points. His usual excellent defensive game. Just a smart player. 11-point lead, 2:34 to go. Maryland basketball. The biggest enemy the Terps have right now is the clock. And they can't get it in 5 seconds. That Carolina defense just doesn't quit. And boy, it's Lefty Driesell starched. Lefty stood up and gave out with one of the best stomps of the night.
Yeah, I think Jim Valvano could have used one of those stomps to get the attention of one of his players at the end of that ball game today when he was trying to get a timeout to set up that last play.
Now Lefty's down talking to the photographers now. He's looking for anybody who wants to listen to the appeal. Carolina has the basketball back. They try to get it into Martin. Bias has it, and he's fouled. And now here comes Doherty again. Brad Doherty has been a little hot since he and Bias went after each other a little bit earlier. And now he and Baxter shake hands. You just don't want to see great players like this start to take it personally and go after each other.
Well, we'll see where Carolina's looking for the lob into Warren Martin, and there's Bias. He just went up over everyone and was able to get possession of the basketball. I think on that last technical foul by Len Bias, he broke my record.
He did?
That's the only record I think I held out here. Most technical fouls.
You knew the magic words too, huh?
Oh, yes.
Bias at the line. The All-American hits the first, he'll get another, and Bias has 19 points.
And I didn't forget them once I got to the pros.
Yeah. Well, you could use them a lot more frequently there. And did, I'm sure.
When I started in the pros, it was only $25 a technical foul. But as it went up, it was up to $100 a technical for a coach. So
Hunter trying to create something and banks it home at 77-66, and Dean Smith will stop the clock. There's still 2:25 to go. A lot of time in college basketball. The lead is 11. Stay with us. Carolina by 11 points with 2:25 to go in the ballgame. Billy?
Well, right now we're going to see a situation. Carolina is going to look to put full court pressure, man-to-man, and they're going to look for the steal, be very aggressive, look to trap, and if they don't, they'd like to possibly foul.
And they're not going to be able to stop it with timeouts. North Carolina is out of them, and Len Bias, the great leaper, comes back to help out on the inbounds play. Baxter double team, tries to bounce it off one of Carolina's players. Instead, it kicks off his ankle. That was a great call by Joe Forte. He was standing right in front of it, and the ball did bounce off of Baxter's leg.
Yeah, and Baxter just whacked Levo after that play. I guess there's no love lost between these teams. Well, there's what a factor Len Bias is. First half, 22.7 when he touched the basketball.
Bias with another rebound and dives out of bounds, getting rid of it. Baxter be smart to pull it out. Instead, he puts the shot up, trying to keep it alive, and here comes Carolina out with it. They're down by 11.
That was a silly shot by Baxter, and if they get in the game after this one, which they should win, where they're up 2 or 4 points and he takes a shot like that, it could mean the difference of them winning or losing.
Lebo off balance. They get it to Lewis, and Lewis is nailed. We'll have a foul underneath. And boy, I wouldn't go out there without a big stick now.
Yeah, you know, another point. We're at the end of the season. There's a lot of emotion involved, and when you get to the ACC tournament, the players are getting a little tired. Also, it's been a long season for them. Both teams are over 30 games so far this season. So, you know, it's a little tension, pressure.
Lewis will go to the free throw line. Maryland up by 11 with 1:41 to go in the ballgame.
What factor do you think this will be for the North Carolina team going into the NCAAs?
I think certainly it knocks them out of one of the top 4 seeds. If they had won this tournament, I think they would have been back in that top 4 seed category. Now they're not going to have that advantage, and I think for Maryland it means they're a lock to get in.
Or do you look at it, if you're the committee, and say, well, there's a team that was badly injured, you know, with a Hale coming back injury, you have Martin hurt, Joe Wolf, etc., and does that become a factor or not?
I think the injuries have to be taken into consideration, but if you lost 4 of your last 5 ball games, I don't think you can be put in one of those top 4 seeds. Lewis hits another. It's 79-66. Maryland by 13, a minute 40 to go. Rancino Smith into the lane.
Well, Rancino's come in and been a spark every time he's come on the court.
Gatlin does a nice job, and then tried to make a fancy pass and threw it away, and there are bodies everywhere. Here comes Kenny Smith back the other way. Baxter waiting. And Kenny Smith knocks it home. It's 79-70. The margin is 9 with 1:14. Maryland's been a little careless with this lead. And now we've got a whistle and a foul.
Well, they fouled the player they like to foul, and that's Terry Long. He shoots 62% from the foul line.
Still 1:12 to go. For Lefty Driesell, this has got to seem like they're timing this thing with an hourglass. This is the last time North Carolina was beaten in the first round of the ACC tournament. They lost to Wake Forest in 1973. In the whole history of this tournament, they've only been eliminated in the first round 6 times, and they have won 10 championships. Long at the line with a 9-point lead. He makes it 10. Long's been a factor tonight, Billy.
He was a big factor in that last game against Virginia. Maryland came out flat, no aggressiveness. He went in there, was very physical against Colonies, and they got his team going, and they ended up having a great game against the Virginia Ball Club.
This is the second. The lead is 10 with a 1:08 to go. Carolina trying to stay alive. Smith trying to create something and gets another basket. When the pressure's on, Kenny Smith just becomes such an offensive threat.
Well, we've seen, you know, we mentioned that during the telecast. It just seems that during the course of the game, many times in the first 30, 35 minutes of a ball game, you don't see him being very aggressive, creating something for himself or somebody else. And then when it gets down, either it's a close ball game or a game like this, he becomes the aggressive player.
Gatlin will go back to the line. What a superb ball game, especially second half he had. 17 points for Keith Gatlin and 8 assists.
He's just played a great game.
He holds the tournament record, by the way, in the ACC tournament for most assists in the entire tournament. Had 23 in 1984.
Not bad.
Rancino Smith back the other way, 10-point lead. He misses. Doherty goes hard to the board. And Lebo is nailed. Gatlin took a whack at him, and they call a travel. Boy, Gatlin got away with one. He almost took Lebo's head off.
Yeah, there was an awful lot of contact, and that's where you run into situations with the players where they start mouthing off and they start banging before you know the fists are up when the officials don't call something like that.
52 seconds to go. The lead is 10. Len Bias with the ball. He gets it to Jones. Maryland just wants to move the ball with no fouls, and the reach in by Matt.
You know,
Our Holly Farms players of the game from Maryland, Keith Gatlin. From North Carolina, Brad Daugherty. Gatlin, 18 points, 8 assists. Daugherty, the offensive weapon for North Carolina, 20 points and 7 rebounds. Holly Farms will contribute $1,000 to the ACC to be distributed among the member institutions under a conference-approved plan. Once again, our players of the game from Holly Farms, Keith Gatlin from Maryland, Brad Daugherty from North Carolina.
After this victory Maryland has here, this is going to put them, as we mentioned, they're a lock to the NCAA. They've beaten Carolina. Okay, now how do they come out and respond tomorrow? After the big goal they had, I'm sure, a couple weeks ago was, let's see if we can get to the NCAA, and now they've achieved that goal. Be interesting to see how they come out and challenge the Georgia Tech team.
And they lost a toughie to Georgia Tech just a couple of weeks ago. Daugherty in the lane with that jump hook, they just let him go. 82-74.
And they lost a tough one down at Georgia Tech by just a couple points.
Yes, they did. After coming from behind, they had a chance to win that one at the buzzer. That'll be an interesting semifinal. Gatlin trying to dribble out the clock. Maryland just trying to kill it now. We're down to 20 seconds. The clock is off. And to Carolina's credit, they're not reaching in and making silly fouls and to prolong it for nothing. They're legitimately going for the ball and not intentionally fouling there. Madden reaches in with 7 seconds. And I think that's great to see, Billy.
Yeah, and you just have to praise this Maryland ball club and the way they came out and played this second half. You know, Carolina now has lost 2 games where they have been ahead in the first half.
And both to who?
And both against Maryland. So this Maryland team just deserves all the credit and accolades they can possibly receive.
And Lefty Grizzell goes to his bench. He gets Greg Narrett, David Gregg, Dave Dickerson, Massenberg in. I think all these kids want to say, hey, we were on the court when we beat North Carolina in the ACC tournament. The semifinals are coming up tomorrow. Virginia against Duke at 1:30, and now we know it's Maryland against Georgia Tech. That's 3:30. Both coming live from the Coliseum here in Greensboro. Hope you'll join us for that. Baxter's free throw, good. He'll get another. And the lead is back to 10, and this is just a formality. And Len Bias with a big smile on his face. Did not have that 30-point game tonight, but he got his points after a tough first half, and he was a horse on the rebound.
And Lefty's got to go in there and praise his team for what they achieved, but tell them, hey, we haven't done anything yet. We came here to win this ACC tournament.
Yeah, we get 2 more days to go.
Do you think he'll make sure that Len Bias and Baxter and Johnson are in bed on time?
Yeah, he'll make sure to curfew tonight.
Yeah.
Rancino Smith leans into one. We got a whistle and a foul with 2 seconds.
But do you think that was a turning point of the season? When Lefty had no choice and he had to suspend those 3 players, and all of a sudden they just came together as a ball club.
I think it was, they had played well, very well just before that, but I think it showed those kids just playing well isn't enough. They made the rules, they broke them, and Lefty made sure they enforced them. And I think it did a great thing for Maryland's program, much in the way that Georgia Tech's football program had suspended players late in the season. If you got rules, you might as well follow them. There's no sense to have in the first place.
And the key is everybody has to live by the rules.
Johnson's jump shot, good if it goes. It doesn't. And Maryland, for the second time in less than a month, has knocked off North Carolina. For Billy Cunningham and our entire ACC broadcast crew, 85-75, this is Mike Patrick saying so long from Greensboro, everybody.